All right, I see a lot of people lately blaming China and Russia for what's happening in Venezuela, and we need to talk about this. This is your favorite half Chinese. I think that people need to stop blaming Russia and China for everything what's going wrong in the world. They have totally nothing to do with what is happening in Venezuela. I also hear people that they need to help Venezuela. What do you mean help Venezuela? They already have been helping Venezuela. Some people say that they have betrayed Venezuela. Like, in what way have they betrayed Venezuela? They literally have nothing to do with what the United States is doing. What the United States is doing is purely what they do on themselves without the consent of Russia and China. So why do you keep blaming Russia and China for things that they have not done? China is also being accused of the Ukraine war. Why are you never blaming the ones that are truly responsible? Why are you not blaming the system which is a parasite system that constantly needs to expand, which is the driving force behind imperialism, that is creating all these circumstances with this exact effect? But oh no, let's just not blame the real cause. Let's just blame actors that have literally nothing to do with these circumstances created by the same actors as usual. You guys need to wake up, all right? When it comes to Venezuela, China, Russia, and Iran already have done way more than enough. In fact, they are almost the only countries that is keeping Venezuela afloat so the people in Venezuela can eat. Because although it has been sanctioned so heavily, China, Russia, and Iran defied all those sanctions and did business with them anyways. So it is really unfair to blame exactly Russia and China for what's something that the United States is doing. What do you want them to do? A lot of people say it's because they're in BRICS. Well, first of all, BRICS is not a military alliance, they're an economic bloc. They're there to work together, and that's exactly what they are doing. Some people are under the impression that it is China and Russia that are pulling the strings in BRICS, then you don't know what BRICS is about. BRICS is not an economic bloc led by any party. BRICS is an economic bloc led by all the parties on an equal share. Nobody is above anybody. The bigger countries are not above the smaller countries, and the smaller countries are not above the bigger countries. It's an economic bloc, and they are working together. So despite all the sanctions, they have put in the mechanisms for those countries when they are sanctioned that they can still float on with the help of other parties within BRICS. More than that, China and Russia cannot do, other than voicing their concern, which they have done in the Security Council of the United Nations. It is up to the United Nations to do things about it. China cannot just place sanctions on the United States over Venezuela. That is illegal. And I understand that a lot of people in the West think that these are normal practices because Western countries are doing that. But mind you, what they are doing is actually illegal. The sanctions placed on Venezuela by the United States and adhered to by the collective West are unilateral, illegal sanctions. They're illegal. That is also why Iran and China and Russia just defy those sanctions because they are illegal. When other countries are listening, it's mostly because they are scared. Why? Because when the West, mainly led by the United States, is placing sanctions on another nation, they are adding uh, extra sanctions on it, secondary sanctions. Which means, was that the correct word? Maybe it gets in my head again. Which means that anybody who defies those sanctions will be sanctioned in the exact same way. That is why so many smaller countries are afraid to do business with Venezuela. It is not that they think like, oh, they're sanctioned, therefore by law I should not do. No, they are afraid to be sanctioned as well. China, Russia, and Iran, they're not afraid of that. They're strong enough on their own, and they will never be attacked like a smaller country would be. Therefore, they defy. When it comes to China, China is one of the only sovereign nations in the world. Might sound strange to you, but that is the truth. So they do not adhere to other people's laws. That is why they don't care about what the West says or thinks. That's how it is when you live in a sovereign nation. So please understand, people, that China, Russia, and Iran already have been doing more than the entire world collectively. They did not betray Venezuela. The United States did. The collective West does. Venezuela has been helped by Iran, by Russia, and by China tremendously. 80% of the oil was being bought by China. If it wasn't for them, the Venezuelan people would have totally nothing to eat. So stop pointing your finger at them and start to point it at the right actors. Now, here comes the second thing. While you are waiting for others to solve those problems, why don't you act on your own? This is what I don't understand, especially from people in the West. While you are complaining, you still are buying all this stuff of the same actors that are literally giving donations to US presidents to do their biddings, like what they did to Venezuela. And then you are pointing the fingers at others, while you yourself are the ones that are funding it. If I go to a protest to see all these things happening, you know what I see? I see people wearing all these brands. Brands owned by the same people that are funding political campaigns. The same ones that are giving hundreds and billions of dollars to US presidents to influence policies and to dictate to the presidents of the United States to what they need to do. So if for anybody you want to be angry at, those are the ones. But blaming people that totally have nothing to do with it, that's unfair. You want to really blame others? And you really do not want to blame those actors? Blame yourself for giving your money to them so they can proceed with this madness. Nobody is forcing you to give your money to them. That's what you do yourself. Because after this video, you will be saying, calling your friend, hey, did you see that movie on Netflix? Or did you see that movie on Amazon? Did you see those new Nikes? I'm going to get them tomorrow. You guys are the ones who are keeping imperialism alive. Understand that mechanism. Now, I ain't mad at you, I'm just trying to educate you. Stop the madness yourself. Stop depending on others to solve the world problems. If you want to solve something, we as the people need to start to solve the problems ourselves. It has been evident throughout our lives that no other party wants to solve our problems, isn't it? So maybe we should stand in front of the mirror and start pointing the fingers at ourselves, instead of pointing it at other countries that literally have nothing to do with it. Maybe we should stop praising all these ridiculous things that we buy as if it gives us a kind of status. It gives you only one status, and that is the status of a supporter of imperialism. And once you support imperialism, one should tone it down a little bit with pointing the fingers at others. I hope this will be helpful for people, and I hope that people will start to think a little bit about it. We, as the people, have more power than that small group. But as long as we sit still and keep funding them, we will always be the underdog. I hope that people now start to think. Waiting for others to solve your problems is not going to happen. We should start to think, why are these things happening? You still support the same system that is driving all this. Start reading books. Start educating others. So in the long run, we can change the world into a better world for everybody. But sitting on your chair or couch and pointing the finger at everybody who has nothing to do with it is unreasonable. See through the madness. Understand how things are working. Understand why things are happening. Stop feeding your emotions. Your emotions should not be here. I hope, again, that this message will be clear. I hope that some people will pick it up. I sincerely hope that you will wake up. And I certainly hope that you will stop blaming other people. Just be reasonable. Again, China and Russia have nothing to do with it. They already have done more than enough. More than this is what they cannot do. They have already voiced. China even demanded to have Maduro released safely and returned to his home in Venezuela. What do you expect them more to do? And other than that, you don't want other nations to start interfering in other nations, because you open the door exactly for what the West continuously is doing. I think it is clear that the majority of the people in the world want that to change. So why do you want other powers to do exactly what you don't want others to do? That is something to think about. That is why you should never want it. Because one day it is for this cause, and the other day they create another cause. That is bound to happen. China is setting an example of a non-interference country. If you read their constitution in just the preamble, then you will understand what they mean by that. And then you will understand why they are like that. And then you will understand why they are never in a war unless they are being pulled into it by threatening their sovereignty. Then you understand why they are not doing these kind of things. And you might make an argument that they have to for the good of Venezuela. But then tomorrow they have to do it for the good of another nation. And then for another nation. There's no end. And the world will keep maintaining the same things. It won't change. Just the actor will change. They're setting an example. And it is time, instead of blaming them for being good, to really show that the actors that are involved in doing these fallacious things, to force them to change. Again, I hope this was meaningful. I hope this message will come across as something positive, although I used a hard tone. But I think that tone was necessary for all of you to start to understand. And now comes the good part. If you want to support my work, but only if you have more than enough money, then you can buy me a coffee. If not, there's no problem at all. I love you anyways. But please leave me a like, share my video, and also follow me. Put on the notification bell if you are on YouTube, so you will be shown my videos. That will help me greatly to proceed to make these videos all for you. Because I'm not monetized, and I think I also will never be monetized. So I can be totally free, only depending on you, on your love. So as always, have a great day. Your favorite half Chinese.